Welcome to day 21 of World Watercolor Month, the daily challenge. And today we have a very simple food item, which is basically spaghetti wrapped around a fork. It looks simple, but look, the details that we will add uh, will probably be the time consuming part. So, in terms of illustration, there are many lines in this particular picture, and we have to somehow get these lines looking realistic. So let's get going. I have here my watercolor pencils. So I definitely need the reds, oranges, and even yellow. So these colors I'm definitely going to be pulling out. In addition to this, I will pull out gray and black for the fork, and maybe a little bit of brown, reddish brown over here, a reddish brown. Um, and then we can see how it goes from there. Okay, let's put these away. There's my A6 watercolor paper. Now I'm going to start with a pencil sketch, but mostly just the fork, the base of the fork. So, or the part of the fork that you can see. So here's the fork, and this is not center, so I need to just center it a bit. So what I could do is, the best way to center it would be to put a line here and make that the fork handle of the fork, and just let this line go down. Then it curves up, so let's bring that up a little bit. Same way on this side. So this is all we get to see of the fork itself. I can remove the center line now because I don't need a guide anymore. Now on top we have spaghetti. So drawing the spaghetti, I'm going to do that with a darker, maybe this orange color, right? I'm going to do it with this directly because I don't want the pencil marking to show. So let's start with a curve like this. So this is where the curve is, somewhere here, right? That's a nice curve. Then a shape that comes out from here goes up like this. What we'll try and do is make sure that the thickness of all the of these spaghetti lines are consistent. That's what we want to aim for, right? Just look for a little bit of consistency in the line thickness. Okay, then now you may see this going up because underneath you have a piece that sticks out here, all the way out here. See? So we're going to again look for thickness. Next, a little bit hiding here, same thickness. Now we can start building on these curves out here. There's one more that goes up slightly higher, and then so line by line, if you target this looking at your reference picture but not necessarily following it to the T, you can make a few alterations. You will start to realize it's not that difficult. For example, look at this one. See, it goes in here, so that makes sense. Look for some logic in your lines. Over here there seems to be a piece of spaghetti that sticks out and comes out like this. See? So some sort of as you add these spaghetti lines, you will start to see how they interact with each other, what comes out where, and that really makes a world of a difference in making your spaghetti look real. Now somewhere here there is something that goes above from here. Okay, comes down all the way like this, right? So something sticking out. That's nice. You have an end to your spaghetti. Now we also have something coming out from here, coming out, curving upward, and I don't know how far it will go up, so I'm just going to right now leave it at where I can see it. So let's just do this portion first, build up a few things, and by the time we reach the top here, should be able to understand how high this needs to go. So next one. So the next one starts somewhere here. Now this little one, I can see it here, and then I have another one coming down like this. Okay, one coming this way. And there's really not much for me to explain, because if you're looking at your reference picture, you will be able to attempt these lines. Okay, I'm always saying this and I'll keep repeating it. In food art, you do not need to worry about too much about individual elements or items. Especially now in this example, this is a very good example of where you can make a lot of change and the spaghetti will still look like spaghetti, whether there are 3 lines coming out of here and only 2 here, or you change something else. What will not suit your picture is probably unevenness. Now, suppose you did not take care of the evenness of the thickness of your spaghetti, then yes, that could make it look very odd and make you wonder what is this item here. But if you are going to take care of the evenness and you are showing this the curvy nature of the spaghetti, whether the number of lines match your reference picture or not, it's going to be very convincing, right? Hello to those who are joining in. Thanks for joining in. I'm just explaining my thoughts as I go through this sketch of spaghetti on a fork. So I join in here, make some lines here, some sort of a logical conclusion, even though you can't see all the lines and how they interact. So just what you feel may be accurate. It should not look funny, like as if you have a line of spaghetti just suddenly merging into another line. That, it has to make sense logically. It has to make sense. The eye has to be able to look at it and say yes, okay, that is convincing. Okay, there's one shape out here, and then some shape that goes around like this. Oh, that became a little thin. Okay, just be careful. Maybe I can thicken it a little bit like this, come out like this. Now there's something in here that is dark. I'll put an extra spaghetti there. So see, you can make changes and you should make changes, because you can't be so rigid when you're making these kind of very tedious lines. There. Sometimes the lines are touching each other. Other times they may be separated by a few bits, a little bit of gap. And don't worry about the gap. When we fill in more detail, we are going to darken these gaps so that it shows the gaps between the outer spaghetti and the inner spaghetti. The inner spaghetti will be lighter. Okay, now that I've drawn this much, I feel I know where this line will go. This line will go up like this. Okay, joins in and forms a layer of spaghetti here. Then we have one coming from behind, coming up like this and joining here. And that's about the end of the spaghetti. Now I have something red on top of it. Something that's shaped very bizarrely. And because this is probably cooked tomato or bell pepper or some sort of a vegetable, it's shiny, right? What I will do is I will start with a little bit of that light color, leave the shine at certain places, which is white, add in the darker, the red, right? I'll also put in a little bit of, no, this is not red, this is actually orange, orangish red. Then put in the little bit of shade that you want. That means you want to darken it at some portions. So here, for example, I see a darker shade. Then out here, over here, a little bit of darker shade. something sticking out here, right? Now my orange shade is not so dark, so let me darken it a little bit. Okay, should be sufficient for now. We can go in with a lot of other things later, but let's not worry about that yet. We have one red out here, one little red patch here, which could be another piece of tomato or veggie that is stuck. I do see one here too, by the way, now that I look at it more closely. So it is observation that helps us understand where things are. When we look at the picture generally without being observing any of the details, we don't understand the interconnectedness. We just see it as a whole. And now it's very nice to see our observations. Now, as far as the fork is concerned, I have a nice shine of white, which I would like to maintain. It stretches all the way down, the fork on one side. This kind of a shine. So I'm going to leave that white while I color in the remaining a shade of gray. This is my gray pencil, so I shade it in gray, leaving that white. And even here I notice that there is a shine, so let me leave this bit over here a little bit white, fill in all the rest with gray. This is not to say that the whole fork is just this flat gray. Is that spaghetti? Yes, it is spaghetti. It is spaghetti, right? Now remember, our first coloring, every time I do this, the first color that I add to the paper here, what I'm adding right now, is the wash color. So what that means is I'm going to add a lot more detail as I go ahead. You're not going to see all the shading in the first attempt, right? So everything looks a bit flat at this point, even after I add color to it. I mean, sorry, put water to it. It's later that we start to see the details coming. Now I'm taking my gamboge and putting in some color over the spaghetti. Okay, somewhere here I'm starting to notice that the spaghetti shines a bit. So at this point I'd like to leave a little bit of a white gap. See over here, somewhere here. So whenever I color in my spaghetti, I leave a little bit of white gap at this place for all my spaghetti lines. All the rest I color in with yellow, so that's not a problem. Yes, looks meatless. I don't know because this is just one bite. So maybe it doesn't have any meat on that bite. Yeah, is it meatless really? I'm not sure. So I'm going to assume, since I can't see it, I can't see the plate, the spoon is meatless. Okay, all right. So can you see this bit of white over here, which I'm kind of maintaining? It's not going to remain white because as I apply paint, as I apply water, that yellow will move around, but it will be lighter here than it is the rest of the. Okay, great. So now I'm going to use my paint, my water. I keep saying paint, it's water, with my small medium sized brush, round brush. Very gently apply it through the center of your spaghetti. Activate, you're waking up the paints. Remember, this is like a wake up morning round, a drill sergeant going through the barracks, if you will, is the analogy. I'd say wake up every bit of those particles, tell them to rise and shine, because we need to turn into watercolor, right? Wet them. The moment you wet them, they will all immediately start activating, moving around, brightening up, lots of things. Okay, we're 15 minutes in to our illustration. Let's see how quickly we can finish this off. Now, this part of the spaghetti is done. If you continue to wet your brush and just run it over these portions, the yellow will run over it, but lightly. See? Let's get onto the red, onto the light part of the red, where the white is still visible, and then onto the darker parts. Always from light to dark if possible, because pencil will drag the pigment that the pencil has left will drag the darker color into the light, and then your shading will be affected. So that's it. Now clean your brush properly, because a few pieces or bits of the pencil can hang around and cause your gray to become reddish. So be careful. Let's activate the gray. Now if you look at the fork definitely has a lot of dark gray areas where the shading is very visible. That will come in when we take black. I'm not directly applying black to the paper because black can be very dark. It's better to apply black by activating the pigment separately on a palette and then controlling its shade on the area where you're adding the detail. Okay, that's done. Let's start with a little bit of shading. On my palette here, I have a little bit of orange and some red, which was taken on, shaved in our previous live sessions when I was painting food. So I'm going to start activating this with a little bit of water. Add a drop of water here too. Get this moving. And use this to start adding details, finer details. Now, I also change, when I start adding fine details, I also change the brush size. I make it a really nice and thin brush that will allow me to put these bits of fine detail carefully. So starting off, there are certain portions where I have a little bit of a darker shade of orange showing, see over here, and for that you need to look at the picture one more time. The picture will tell you a lot about these darker portions. So this is a darker portion here, right? Then we have some in between. So I have here gaps, a few gaps here. So these darker portions are because they are either hidden by spaghetti on top, or there may be some sauce that we can't see. So it stained the spaghetti darker. Those could be the only reasons why this happens. Now this, for example, this is a slightly darker spaghetti because it's in the shadow of light is hitting on the left, not the right. So this portion is really dark. Then underneath here, there's some shadow. Over here. A little bit of light here. This is, in fact, sorry, not light, dark. Over here. Here it's quite vivid. It's quite dark over here at certain places. So I'm pulling in more red and trying to, so this part especially, see here, it's quite dark. This is dark. This is definitely dark here. Just look around. It's basically a lot of observation and distribution. When you are doing all this, you can't be overly even. It's not realistic to have every spaghetti looking identical. Some of them will be different. Here a little bit here. See? Now so I'm just looking at it from, like, you must stand back and occasionally look at your work to see whether there is something that may have missed your eye. So I have started to notice that almost every spaghetti on the right side is darker, and the ones on the left, or the same spaghetti line on the left, is lighter. Even the yellow can be brightened if you scrape a little bit of yellow onto the palette, wet it, and use it. So take that little bit of yellow, scrape it. Oh, can you see it? Yeah. Scrape a little bit of the pigment from the pencil like this. Then add water to activate it like this. Swirl it around. Very important to swirl it for a few conscious seconds, or maybe even a minute. Very soon you'll notice that the pigment is getting dense and the particles are dissolving completely. It's good to dissolve them completely, because otherwise you will have these particles land up on the paper and then a little harder to take out. Takes a little time. Okay. Just keep checking that you're not picking up any particles. You can tap it on the side and see how that works. Now, bringing that in on this side, because I want the yellow to be brighter. At this point, you could even consider mixing in some yellow with the orange that's already on your palette if you would like it. But otherwise, you can just apply yellow, make the yellow more vibrant, and even retain some of the original yellow that you put, so that you have some contrast. Next, we'll go on to the red pieces out here. Now this red is dark but not dark enough. So for that, into this palette, I will pick up a little bit of black, just a wee bit, add it to the red, darken the red. Now the darkening has to be in such a way that the red is still visible. It's still a shade of red and not black. Now you add that in as shadow work over here. See, at this point. Same thing on this part. In fact, I see this reddish color over here, quite dark. Seems to be a shadow of sorts. Right? So there's some dark shadow here. A line coming in like this. Then this portion here, somewhere here, I have a V shape. That V shape is very, there's one here, and there's one here too. See? So the outline which we drew in red has kind of blurred, and by going over it with this darker color, you get it back. Right? I will go one step further, take a little bit of black as well, dip it into that red, and just draw a dot of that at the edge over here, just a wee bit at certain portions. So this is one place, the black, this is another place, another here, another here, and that should be enough. The rest you can fill with that reddish color. Right? Okay, some quality there. Now I can dilute the reddish color a little bit and apply the same thing on this side. That same diluted color will help you define the spaghetti on this side. See? So the spaghetti outlines kind of need to be drawn so that you can see one line from another. Just like we can see it here, it needs to be visible to the eye here. Okay, now we can start darkening there's one last place. I'm trying to see where this is. Over here. So this particular spaghetti is a little dark in the picture. I'm just trying to see if I can maintain that. Done. Now we go on to the portion here. Forgot about this. Now for the gray, what I'm going to do is take black. I have black here already. Activate it. Your black has to be really light. It is gray, but it is very light gray, not dark, not a dark gray at all. And with this this medium, this gray, which is darker than the existing gray color, we'll start adding an outline on the right side. We had mentioned that the right doesn't receive as much light as the left, so we're kind of making sure we show that lack of light by painting it darker. Here too there is some shifting in the light. See, just trying to catch as much of it as I can by looking at the picture. Light here. Okay. Now this outline of the spaghetti is very important because it's all coming in the dark portion of the fork. So be very careful. Capture this darkness as well as you can. See over here. To lighten it, just add a drop of water to your brush and just spread that same color further down. I'll clean this up a little better and just spread it. Yeah, see, it lightens the color a bit. Now with the more gray, I will add some shading here. Something's happening here. There's a little bit of a shape, see, a rounded shape. Yeah. Now this is starting to look more like the silver bit of a spoon, of a fork, sorry, a fork. Hi Ranjana. Now comes the difficult part, the part where you have to add a little bit more darkness. And this is tricky because you aren't sure where it becomes too much, at what point it becomes too much. So you have to observe it as you add it. Just watch out for this darkness. Next, what happens next? Next, we have a little bit more over here, just a wee bit. Now be very, very careful how much you add. Just a wee bit here, and then a dot on this side. See the contrast? Now being watercolor, even though it looks lovely as a contrast here right now, you cannot be sure that it will dry as dark, which it usually doesn't. So keep that in mind. and be ready to go over it one more time in case you feel it needs to be darker than what you put. Okay, with that done, very thin line on this side too, and I will not overwork this anymore. This is it, right? And that's it. That's my spoon of spaghetti. Not as quick as I hope, but not as far as long as yesterday, 30 minutes. So I hope you like this. This is day, let me write, oops, let me write, I think I flipped my camera a bit, moved, knocked it rather. I need to write down my day 21 of 31. So exactly 10 days left of the daily sketch challenge. Thanks for joining in. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.